Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Mahnaz, and this podcast is for mums who want to carve out time so that you can work in ways that work for you, your life, your family, and of course your business. Together, we will discover why you are not prioritising your business and the actions that you can take so you can live an intentional, productive, and fulfilled life without mum guilt. So let's dive in to today's episode.
Welcome to another episode on the Build with Boundaries podcast. So today I'm starting off a new series called the Harmony series because I feel this is something that we need to talk about more. We need to understand what harmony is, what it looks like, and just think about practical steps that can help us to achieve more harmony, because we're living in such a busy world and it can often feel like we are chasing something that will never ever happen. So today I want to start with mentoring and this whole idea of what mentorship is, because what harmony gives us is actually inner peace. And a client recently said to me, "You are much more than a coach." And it really got me thinking. It stuck with me, and it was so powerful because I've worked with this client for some time now, and there's so many things that I am seeing that I couldn't see before, and so many things that my client has seen that have just been transformational, and I don't think either one of us was prepared for this. So when she said that to me, it started off this whole thinking process about what mentorship means to people. And maybe more people are aware that you can have a coach or a mentor, for example. I mean, we have hundreds and thousands of different types of coaches, and everybody is specialised in what they do. So it just feels like there's so much there. Like literally, we will all know hundreds of coaches. We just need to look at our LinkedIn feed and see what everybody does. So I thought, let's unpack this and, let's talk about the differences, because I think, again, us standing in our uniqueness is about embracing what actually makes us different. Now, I help my clients see that through values and human design, which is another way of looking at your uniqueness. And it just occurred to me today that being a mentor versus being a coach, well, that is actually a uniqueness too. And people's perceptions of what a coach is can be different. And again, for mentors, it can be different. So I work as a mentor and I am not a coach. And I just want to, be open about that, but also to really dig into what does that actually mean. So what I have found, and what you will notice yourself is, and especially if you've worked with a coach or a mentor in the past, is in lots of different areas, they work differently. And, this can be good. It's not to say one is better than the other, but what do you need? This is really about you. So in terms of what their focus is and what their expertise is, if we do a little comparison, then a coach will typically have a very structured approach. They might have tools and processes and the way that they work through things, like a methodology, a system, the way that they do things, and that is all obviously geared up to help the client to overcome the specific challenges they're going through. Whereas a mentor can have all this experience that they are putting together, and it is experience in a particular field, but they are offering guidance and advice and wisdom based on that experience. So it's based on their lived experience. So that I see is the big difference there. And then in terms of the relationship, so that can be quite different too. With a coach, It is much more structured and formal. And, the focus is always on overcoming this challenge that the client has, or a goal that they're trying to achieve. Whereas a mentor is something a little bit different, because they can be more personal. They can be quite informal too. And when mentors are sharing, from this bag of experience that they have, and skills and learnings and knowledge, they just unpack what is needed, and they're able to just pick out the elements that are needed. So it's not about going through this full, structured way, the way that a coach will work. It's about building a deeper connection and working through things in a different way. So it's a very different approach. And then what about the aspect about learning? Clients will usually, more often than not, they will find their own solutions and their own insights through powerful questioning that coaches will do. And coaches have this ability to be very active at listening. They're trained and they have structure. They may have exercises they ask you to go through. And it is very much about helping the client to take ownership of where they want to go. And really, all the ideas will come from the client. Now, as a mentor, they can be providing that guidance and advice, but because it's based so much on their own experience, they can offer direct advice too. And, if you're a mom who's just swallowed up with all these decisions that you have to make on a day-to-day basis, what I find is this is really valuable, because sometimes we just need someone to tell us what to do. And that's certainly what I find, is there needs to be this balance. And it's not to say that it's just about this advice and giving direct instructions of what to do, but also adding in the sharing their stories element of things that come to them, perhaps even working with their own intuition and, what actually feels relevant for them. Again, it's about picking out what they want to share from their baggage of experience or knowledge that they have. And they also act as a role model, because there is a connection that a mentor has in terms of the specific issue and why somebody's coming to them. You will tend to go to somebody who you have resonated with. So they have got some part of their story, part of their challenges and their own struggles, something that they have gone through that really hits home to you. And because of that, you feel inspired by how they have come through that. You perhaps feel that some of the skills they have, you don't have. So therefore, being in their presence, working with them closely, means that you're able to pick up things that you wouldn't get from a coach, because there's this personalized aspect in a mentorship where it is about speaking from experience of what you've been through, what you've tried, or, that knowledge base that you have, and sharing it in a different way. And all of that is to obviously guide the mentee along their own path, but just adding all these elements of wisdom along the way. Then if you look at the aspect of duration, how long do you work with somebody? Tends to be that a coach can be for a shorter time, because they focus very much on a specific goal. And as we mentioned, earlier, coaches can be very much specialized in particular fields and areas or challenges. And what that means is, once you overcome that challenge, and once you've moved past that, once you've reached the goal, that is their aim. They put everything into helping you in that short time, because they have to do it with in a defined time frame. Whereas with a mentor, it's not about achieving all of this in this short space of time, or like really putting any pressure on that way. Because what I think with mentoring, and certainly again with mums who are running businesses, is how intense is it when we add even more pressure of we must do X in 30 days, in 2 months, in 3 months. We can't necessarily quantify that, but what we can do is make this progress and this start of a journey that we tend to go on ourselves. And that will then open us up to understanding what it is that we need next. Because in order for us to feel we're moving forward, there will be things that we will deal with, and then new things will pop up, and then we deal with those. And with a mentorship, it is more of a long term, because it can be quite open-ended. Because when you work with a mentor as well, your needs as a mentee are going to change, and your circumstances are going to change. This is particularly true for mums in business. So when that changes, that mentor is actually able to provide different kinds of support and advice, because it's not specific to the person they're helping, and it's very much, obviously, if it's a good fit for something they can help with, but there is more scope there for having ongoing support and advice, because chances are, if they're them being that role model, them helping their clients or mentees to take have new insights and take advice and guidance and use that knowledge that they've shared in their stories to take those actions and actually do things, then that is going to open up to feeling more connected with them, and you will actually develop much more of a closer relationship, because it's not just about this short period of what you do. And I think with that, it becomes like there's this journey that the client goes on. And when they reach the end of that period, that whatever's defined in the beginning, there's always room for growth, right? Personal development never really ends. And with a mentor relationship, there's something very personal about that, because you get to know your mentees inside out. Like, there's so much that you can share. And I know the same is true for coaches as well. But with the mentoring, I do think that this approach of some of your personal experience, sharing your stories, and being able to understand where the person is, and then balancing that with empowering the mentee to figure out the things that they need to figure out. So when they need help with decisions, for example, like, they don't feel alone in like, I need to make the right decision. And with the work that I do, because I bring human design and values into it, it becomes like a guidance. Once you set up some foundations of, how do you work best, then it's a case of practicing those and using them and actually implementing. So it becomes a lifelong journey, in the sense of there's always something to be done. There's always different situations arising. So that could be in your personal life, in your family life, with your kids, or in your business. And all of these things are interrelated, and they will affect each other. So understanding how you operate best is so important. So I want to leave you with another video series that I did on values and how that connects with boundaries, because I think that is so important for us to understand what boundaries are. But before we understand boundaries, we also need to understand who we are, and values form words that we come up with for our core values. They form our inner self. It's like creating those words and really clarifying what those are and being able to connect them with our stories. So there's a 3-part series that you can find on buildwithboundaries.com on the free resources page. So check that out. I'll pop the link in the notes below. So I hope you found that helpful, and until next time.